Orale! Bienvenidos and welcome to the Familia FFB podcast. This is your host, Jorge Martin. Feliz Navidad, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, everybody. I hope you're enjoying the holidays. It is fantastic. It is the most wonderful time of the year because it's also the fantasy football playoffs, the fantasy semifinals, and we are here to help you. And it's just, I'm so excited about our guest. I'm just so utterly thrilled for tonight. This is going to be awesome. First off, I just want to give you guys a quick shout out. Make sure you are going to we are a proud member. You know that we are a proud member of the Fantasy Points Media Group. Make sure you're going to fantasypoints.com. They have a 30% off your 2023 season subscription. You can renew early, get in there, subscribe, and get your help all the way through the Super Bowl, and then get ready for next year. And yes, baby. Familia. Our invitada de lujo right here. To my right, your left. Familia, she is, I can say I knew her when. And it was probably about a year and a half ago. I'm on Rum Boys After Dark with our compadre, Rum Boys Robbie Johnson. Robbie, papi, muchos abrazos here and there. We were on this and she was just getting started in this whole fantasy sports media and the sports media space. And I could tell an estrella was being born. There was just a natural feel to hearing her talk, listening to her go through O-line play and talking about being both powerful and swift. I mean, it was really like listening to a song. I've had so much fun watching her grow. I'm so proud of her. When we met for the first time in Canton back in August at the Fantasy Football Expo, I mean, it really was. It wasn't like the first time I met. It being like we've been friends for over a year. So, oh man, and I'm so happy to have her on. She's now all over the place. She's doing plenty of NFL. She's even doing some NBA work. She's one of the most real, most honest, and really funny people on social media. And you can also find her on the Heavy Sports Network. So she is La Reina of THICC. So I'm so happy to have her throw down her anchor with us tonight. So bienvenido to our buena amiga, Madi Kroll. Madi, estás en tu casa. Welcome.
What is up, everybody? I'm so excited to be here. I did wear my THICC shirt. I don't know if you can see it or not. Always got to represent.
Yes.
We love the offensive linemen. We love the big boys. I'm kind of like in shock just because that intro was so sweet. Thank you so much. What's up, Albert?
Oh my good, Albertson, Dame Overboard too. Oh, to our muy buen amigos and amigas. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be a great show tonight. Because you know what? We are in the thick of fantasy football playoffs, and that's why I love that you're joining us tonight. Because honestly, I mean, this is when it's cut and bait. Only the best of the best are alive in their leagues. How I know you've really stepped up your game on the fantasy side. How are you alive in any of your leagues? Because I know you're playing with sharks.
Yeah, I am all but one league. And it's the league that I accidentally auto drafted half of my team. But that's okay because we went for a decent run. But yeah, as of now, all but one league, which I'm pretty happy with. I'm super excited about it.
So you're still killing it on waivers and everything like that, and making tough moves, and yeah, you're making some of the big decisions like so many other people. Do you have any tough ones? Any tough decisions coming up?
I really don't. I try this year not to stress about it too much. Me and my therapist have been working on not letting fantasy football ruin my entire life. No, I'm just joking. But I do tend to overthink things. And so this year I decided I'm going to take it week by week. I'm not going to overthink. I'm not going to try to stress myself out about situations that hadn't happened yet. And I've been kind of playing it in a little bit different of a way. Now that I've gotten more into DFS, I've kind of taken that route of who I'm deciding to start and play and how I go about my game. And so I feel like it's worked out for me.
I love DFS. Love DFS. Isn't it great? Because you love O-line play, so you're really into the matchups and everything like that.
Yes.
So you can really get into just the quarterback receiver matchups. Is this line getting? Oh, that's what I love. What really sucked you in about it?
So, this was actually my very first year of playing DFS. My eyes are darting because this is my first time using a camera. Obviously, I'm a rookie. I don't know where to look. Anyways, DFS, I just really started this year when my company Heavy had a partnership with FanDuel, and then I just kind of became obsessed because I tanked. The first 2 weeks I sucked, and I was like, "Okay, I have to get good at this, right? Like, I'm not gonna be bad." So, I kinda devoted my time to figuring out what was gonna be good, and I realized all it comes down to is choosing the best matchup. So, I would kinda evaluate, have my list of people who I felt like were the best matchups for that week, and that's how I was going about drafting them, and it's worked out in my favor. So, that's kind of how I've attempted to approach my fantasy football rosters as well.
And that's the thing. That's the thing. That's the beauty that what I try and do with adentro y afuera is that sometimes a guy that you're automatically in on, you're adentro on, you
Mhm.
might be afuera on because of the price, because of the matchup, because you have extra options. You're like, oh no, I don't need to play Travis Kelsey this week, but actually you do this week. Uh, but you might just say, oh, you know what, I want to pay down. That's what I love. That's what I love.
Well,
Now, what have been some of your hits and misses this year? Um,
as far as fantasy football players go,
yeah,
um,
like any recommendations or guys you drafted a lot?
oh, Justin Jefferson, I feel like I'm gonna draft forever as time goes on right now. I'm super happy with Hurts. Actually, in one of my leagues, somebody dropped Brown after week 11. He had 2 bad games, and somebody dropped him week 11. I know, that's what I said, after week 11, and I picked him up. So in one league, I know I have a Hurts, Brown stack, and that's, like, my favorite right now. And then in another league, I have Tua Tyreek stack that I really like. As far as misses go, Mark Andrews hasn't performed at the level that I want him to whenever I took him in the second round. And then Cooper Kupp has been tough. That injury, obviously, that was kind of a miss.
But he was playing great, so he was
He
still worthy of the top 5 pick.
Yeah, it's just those injuries, they get you, man.
It's so brutal. And there've been a couple leagues where he got dropped, and I was just like, should I just pick him up and throw him on IR, just in case he comes
Just in
back for
case it
week
goes down.
17? But yeah, and the Andrews one, I wonder if he's still not. And you're Raven, I've seen your
I
Ravens gear before.
Yeah, I do love my Ravens, yeah. This year's it's been a struggle.
Oh man, and I had such high hopes for Lamar this year. He was one of the guys that I was really recommending. The one I recommended the most was Kyler Murray, but I was like Lamar. I was kind of like, okay, I'll pass on the other guys. I'm going to get Lamar at round or two after the big guys, and it's been a rough one.
Man, I hate that for Lamar. The Ravens are gonna have to change a lot of things going into next year, so hopefully they're up for the challenge.
I think so. And oh man, and the challenge. But any other greatest hits that because I want to play the hits on this one. Jefferson, you know what? I was really in on him.
Mhm.
There was only one thing that gave me a little bit of pause, and it's actually what's coming up is that game in Green Bay, week 17, championship week. I just kept like, ooh,
You're
should
nervous
I?
about that game?
I'm nervous about that game for him.
Oh, no, I think that he's gonna eat. I
I
actually think
hope
the
he does.
run game has the opportunity to take off, but I think that he's gonna eat. Green Bay's defense is just they've gotta work on that. There's so many holes on all 3 levels. I think Justin Jefferson's gonna tear tear them up. I really do.
You know what? I hope he does because because
They run that soft zone, like, I just don't understand. What are they gonna do? They're gonna have to try to rush and get 4 home, and I just don't see that happening.
I think the only thing that was giving me pause was just the classic dome team going into cold weather, to
Yeah.
extreme cold weather. That and I had talked to a writer who covers the Vikings before the season, and he was saying how Kirk isn't good in the cold. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that Justin, because I've got a team championship dynasty team with several friends of ours that let's just say it's called the Thirsty Thursday League for a reason. So
Okay. I have a feeling who's in that league.
Yep, yep. So I've got the first place team, and Justin Jefferson was my number one pick, and so
Mm,
I'm feeling good.
great
I hope
pick.
he breaks that narrative. Hope he breaks that
My
narrative.
fingers are crossed for you. My fingers are crossed for you. The Vikings are just such a weird team because if you say the Vikings are terrible and you say that they're insanely special, you're right. Like nobody's wrong in that situation. So they're a different team, you know?
Yeah, it's funny, kind of like the how the Eagles, they're great no matter what the other team is. They're great at whatever the other team is soft at.
Hmm.
The Vikings can be great, but they can find that soft zone in themselves against teams like the Lions or those.
They can. They're resourceful. Yeah.
So I want to ask. So we talked about DFS. Other favorite formats that you like to play other than redraft?
Um, redraft is my favorite. I'm actually not in a dynasty league. I do think that I would love to be in a dynasty league. I've talked to a couple of my friends about starting one. So I think next year I'm going to aim to try to make that happen. Um, so right now I feel like redraft but DFS is kind of my favorite right now just because I've been making money off of it. So
And the
it's kind
great
of
thing
hard to shake that.
and the great thing is you could play DFS all the way through the Super Bowl. So
Yeah.
that like once championship week comes, I'm switching Familia FFB to a strictly DFS, just week to week, and I'm gonna have a ball. And then it's like, okay, yeah, I'll plan for 2023 after the Super Bowl. Do that. So
Absolutely. That's the way you should. On multiple
mm,
different apps. It's like doing a puzzle is what I say. When my family's like, "What are you doing
yes,
sitting on your phone?" And I'm like, I'm doing puzzles.
that is
Just
actually the
fit my
perfect
guys in."
analogy.
Yeah.
Perfect analogy. Perfect analogy. Oh, you are just you're a degen. Welcome. Welcome. Now, on your redraft leagues, have you done much superflex? How do you like it compared to one to single QB?
I I love Superflex. If I could play Superflex all the time, I would. I don't have a preference, so I do enjoy it just because I love when the points go up. It makes me
Mm.
excited. It's like the equivalent of going to a casino and the lights and the sounds are all going off. That's how I feel when the points are going up. I just get excited. So that's I really like that. I think that that's dope. You have more opportunity for stacks.
I agree. I agree. Yes,
Mr.
that
Scampers, okay.
Mr. Scamper's the coolest cat. Was coolest cat. Oh yeah, watching my stories and doing my puzzles. Yes, very true. Very true, Dame
There you
Overboard.
go.
Very, very true.
Yeah. My
Uh,
family is always like, "Do you have a boyfriend? Is that a boy texting you?" And I'm like, "Nah." Send my roster, it's fine.
yeah, your boyfriends. So yeah,
Yeah, boyfriends.
they're all my friends. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
all my friends. No,
Different roster, Meemaw.
and that one, yeah, let them be like, hey, chill.
Just relax.
Let a girl have fun. Let a girl have fun.
Yeah.
That's yeah. I
I'm trying to get
maybe
your Christmas money here. Can we just chill?
so true, so true. Yes, extra the better. Yeah, this Justin Jefferson stack comes, this Cousins Jefferson stack comes through and gets a late touchdown. Boom.
Yeah.
I actually won a small tournament. I don't know if you did on Sunday Night Football, not Sunday Night Football, Sunday afternoon, the Charger game.
Mhm.
Mike Williams got a late catch for like 30 yards. That
Yep.
took me from third to first place, and loved
Thank you,
having.
Herbert. Yeah,
Yes,
that's dope. I love that for you. That's so exciting. And then it
that
just
was
takes one where you're just like, "Ah," no, and it makes you invested in the game, even if it's not your team. It makes you want to watch until the end. So why not? All in for it, unless you have a gambling problem and then find another puzzle.
yes, yeah. And there are free games to play. So
Yeah,
yes,
free
play
games
play the free
also.
ones. So and give people advice. So you could do that. It's
Yeah.
much easier. It's like the old school show Cheers. The bartender was a recovering alcoholic, so he could actually give people advice.
I never saw Cheers, and I get so much crap for that. I never saw Cheers or Seinfeld, and people just come at me for it.
You know what, the thing, I love both of them. Seinfeld is a little more timeless,
Mm,
but Cheers is very kind of feels of its time. it's still they're both still clever. They're both, but Seinfeld may be a little bit more clever. Though to me, those two shows are on the same level with Friends. So that's
Same league. All right, we can roll with
right
it.
there, right there. Because I hope you're a Friends fan.
Um, I've watched a little bit. My family was never a big watch TV type family. We were big into sports, and so if by the time we made it inside, if we were inside watching something, it was usually a game
Oh, even
or my
better.
mom's Lifetime movies, which nobody wanted to watch. So
Yeah, Mom, can we put the game on, please? Can we just get the game back on, please?
yeah,
Por favor. So
please.
I wanted to ask, it was the expo
Mm,
was such for both of us. It was our first time. It was my first time in Ohio, and for more than, but to be there and just be surrounded with so many like-minded people.
mm.
What was the experience like for you? And also to be a part of that women's fantasy football panel, which was one of the highlights of the weekend.
Yeah, as far as the expo went, it was awesome because Sam Holt is who I roomed with, and I was so excited to meet her because I felt like I had known her so well. We sat and talked together every week for weeks on end. Um, and it was just awesome to be able to get to meet her and hug her. And I was so excited about that I guess I just didn't really visualize what the rest of the weekend would be like. So I went in without any expectations. And I showed up and it was amazing just because I felt like I had found my people. I felt accepted. I felt like I could fully be myself. And that is such a freeing feeling when you can go somewhere and you just kind of feel like, oh, I'm at home. Even though you're in a room full of strangers, you just feel accepted automatically. I can't say enough good things about the expo. My only complaint about the expo is I feel like everybody should have their Twitter names or their Twitter handles on their name tag because there's a few people who would come up and say hi to me and I had no idea who they were and then they would tell me their Twitter name and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know you. Never mind."
That happened to me probably about at least a half dozen times where people were like, "Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I'm so and so," and I was just like, yeah, and yeah, it was great. But you know what? It was so funny because I'd been on so many shows with people, had people as guests. Sam was a guest. Sam and Kendall Valenzuela were guests of mine after because we're all in
amazing
the same.
women.
Oh, we're all in the same Scott Fishbowl division, so we had to. Actually, Sam, I owe her a beer because we bet on who would start more games between Kenny Pickett and Mitchell Trubisky. So I
She
think it's
won.
close. I think she's going to win.
My
Yeah,
girl. That's
yeah.
her.
So yeah, but I'm
Big Steelers
winning.
fan.
I'm still alive. So I'm still alive in the
There you
top
go.
500. So
And
me and
that's a
Kendall were.
tough league too.
Oh my goodness! I mean, I
Tough
sat there
tough
and
division of a tough league too.
oh man, when I looked around, I mean, because we were at the live draft, and it was, and a couple Dame Overboard and Mr. Scampers were also there, and that's where we met for the first time. And I swear, I mean, I saw all the brain power on there. I mean, gosh, there were probably there were a few million followers
Mm,
among everybody's uh, among everybody's follows. But I mean, it was just amazing to see the brain power in there. And I mean, it was tough. It was tough. I mean, I actually feel very lucky that I was the high point leader in our league. Kendall won the most games. I was the high point leader,
that's
and but yeah,
awesome.
we're both still alive and just having a good time. So yeah,
Love
she
to
and I
hear
keep going
that.
back and forth. Yeah, it's the Latino power thing that we keep saying.
You gotta represent. You gotta represent. I
So,
realized I didn't answer your question about the women's
yeah,
panel. That was it was unbelievable. I felt like, "Wow, should I even be up here?" Amongst all those amazing women. It was almost, a moment of imposter syndrome for a second when Sam asked me if I wanted to do it. Um, but just to hear their stories, I felt like was the most motivating aspect of that weekend. I left that 30-minute panel fired up. I didn't want it to end. I was so excited. And I just felt like, okay, I'm ready to get to work. I'm ready to get into season, to do things. Okay. Yeah. For some reason, I wouldn't have identified you as the cat there,
yes, Mr. Scampers. But
Mr.
you're right.
Scampers.
And yeah, and you're 100% right that just a little more than 30 minutes was way too little. Next year it has to be longer. And just to give everybody I really felt like you all were just getting started by the time came up. But to be when I started playing fantasy football and even starting to follow people, I mean, it was white guys. And
Mhm.
I love the diversity. I love, people, trailblazers who've come in, the Stefania Bell, Liz Losa, Lindsay Rhodes, who have paved the way for you and Sam and Kendall.
Absolutely.
How great is it to know? I know that you didn't feel like you were alone in this, and be, kind of blazing a trail, but it has to feel a little gratifying to see that so many women are doing this and being successful, and just and being able to follow a passion that's really was thought to be a nerd thing. Well, we're all still nerds, but it's just cooler
I mean, I
to
was
have so
gonna
many
say
people.
we are nerds, all of us. For me, I think that it's amazing just because representation is so important. So for me, it was really cool. I'm an older sister. I have 5 siblings. They're all younger than me. The youngest are twins and they're 13. And my little sister, it was fun because when I came back, I had all of these fun pictures with all of the girls that I was hanging out with. And she was like, that's what fantasy football is. And to her, it was this whole new world that opened up. So for me, it's amazing that one, I get to experience that and be around women who think like me and who can motivate me and push me to that next level. But on the other side of that, I want the younger generation to be able to realize, hey, this is an opportunity that you can fully take on if this is your passion and if this is what you love. I was fortunate enough that my stepdad was a high school football coach. So I was able
Oh,
to be on the sidelines and nobody really thought that it was too weird or any of that until I got to be basically whenever I was in college. And then after that, when I would talk about football, it got to the point where men would kind of put me down a little bit. And so that was an aspect of myself that I tried to hide. So for me, this whole experience is even more freeing because I did try to suppress that side and that love for football for a little bit to try to conform to society. And I wasn't happy. I was miserable. And now that I'm able to be myself, to express how much I love the game and just fully dive into it. It's my job now. It's absolutely incredible. It really is. It's such a freeing feeling. So just knowing that those people who came before me, those women who, they basically just didn't care. They're like, this is what I love and this is what I'm going to do. It's so inspiring.
it is so great. And one of the things that I saw, it seeing so many women doing this, it isn't weird. I mean, for me, I'm older, quite a bit older. So I remember when things were very different. But I think what really was great was the 8 years I spent in the Dodger front office. There were men, women, and it was just everybody was like minded, and
Right.
everybody was sports nerds. A lot of people played sports, and that's where, and you know what, and that's where I saw some of the most confident women that or a lot of
Absolutely.
them had played sports, and but also just sat there and would sit there, and we would sit down and talk the game out, and it would just be like it would be like two people hanging in a bar. It was not men, woman. It was just two people who loved the game, hanging out. And that to me, I feel like I finally got that back in the fantasy football community, because
Hmm.
now, I mean, meeting people like you and Sam and Kendall and Liz, I got to hang out with her a little bit at the LA Live draft. I mean, it was just I have a long story. She's going to be on the show. I'm going to make sure you
Amazing.
catch. Yeah,
Congratulations.
we talked at the LA Live, and then that we're gonna get something together. So
Together.
there's a really cool story. There's a really cool story.
I
But
can't wait to hear it.
Oh, I'll tell you a little bit. I'll tell you the cliff notes offline on this one, because it could get too long. But one of the things, and oh, by the way, Familia, if you haven't caught Casey Kasem's Get Real podcast, where I mean, number
Love
one,
Casey.
subscribe to
Her
it.
podcast is amazing. Yes.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Mhm.
Maddie was on it,
I
not too
was.
long ago, probably about 6-8 weeks ago. But you got go back and listen to it. Subscribe. Go back and listen to it. You talked about your appreciation for O-line play, and that's where I really, things I mentioned it in the intro, where things really lit up for me. Hearing you talk about it is really special. And you talked about being roommates with college linemen, which I think is
Mhm.
hilarious. But what were some of and you talked about watching the game in their eyes, what were a couple of the valuable lessons that you learned from that kind of film study and just from talking to them?
Man, it was a whole different ball game, to be honest with you. I whenever I moved in with them, I thought that I knew a lot because I would break down film with my stepdad and the other coaches. That's how I spent my Sundays. I wasn't watching NFL all the time in high school. I would watch the night games, but every Saturday and Sunday, we were in the locker rooms, we were watching film. We were Saturday was the previous film, Sunday was the other team's film, and they would get a game plan together. And I loved it because I loved to just watch the way they were thinking and what they saw. And so I thought that I knew a lot going into college. Um, I learned that I had a lot to learn. For me, it was more of a I think I learned to appreciate the game in a different way because I knew football, I knew the game, but once you get to that level, just the intricacy of what they're watching, the ball snapped, how long did it take for your foot to drop? What degree did it drop? I mean, they break it down. It's so intricate. And for me, that's what makes it special. That's what makes football so fun to watch. I could watch film all day long for one game, just evaluating each different movement. Because with offensive linemen, if you're not striking, if you're not making that contact first, you're already beat. And then you're going to have to try to recover. It's a whole big thing. But being able to stay agile enough to move, get yourself in the right position, a lot of times you can tell where there's going to be a hole from the snap of the ball if you're paying attention, if you're watching the right lineman. And so just the intricacy, I think, is what changed the game. Is just the level of detail. It's almost like ballet, but that's when my eyes were open, I would say, and it made me kind of dive in deeper. I'll say
Yeah.
that.
Oh, a lot of smart people have used the ballet. A lot of smart people like you have used the ballet analogy, and I think it's perfect. You don't want to think of these guys as just these big dirty fat guys. These
They're
guys are,
not.
oh, they're athletic. They're some of the most
Mhm.
athletic people on the field. They're just bigger, which
Absolutely.
makes it more amazing. They're also tell me if I'm wrong. They're also some of the smartest people on the team, if not the smartest people on the team.
Absolutely incredible. I'm so glad that you brought that up. So smart. You have to be. Oh, and not only do they have to be intelligent, they have to be good communicators. And that's what sets an offensive lineman. Really, every offensive lineman that you see in the league, it's because they're a good communicator. Talent can only get you so far. Your body will start to give out, but you have to be able to communicate what you see quickly, accurately, and you have to be able to recognize things before they're even there. So, offensive linemen, says that the quarterback is the man of the team, but you're not winning any games without a good offensive line. You're just not. Like you can only go so far. Your quarterback's not going to last because he's going to get taken out. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, I've seen that with the Rams this year, so I
I
know.
mean, even Tom Brady, like Tom Brady is one of the greatest quarterbacks we've ever seen, but why is he struggling right now? Because his offensive line is struggling. It gets rough. The Rams, I try not to give them too hard of a time. You guys are on like third, fourth string guys.
Guys are hurt, and you know what? Yeah, it's like I was talking to LQ, Laquan Jones, and we're
Mhm.
both big Ram
Love
fans, and we're
LQ.
like, you know what? We won last year, so we'll
Mhm.
take the beat down this year. Flags fly forever, so we'll take that Lombardi and just enjoy it a little bit extra
Yeah.
longer. But yeah, you know what? And that's the thing you talked about, needing that offensive line. I mean, you kind of answered the next question where I was going to say, if you don't have a good offensive line, you know, you already said it. But
Yeah.
and we have Jason Kelsey on the artwork for this one, as you mentioned.
Oh, my
I
man.
did
Love him.
I learned from you that he's also a talented singer. So I got to as but
Have
he's
you not
as
heard
big.
his album? Or I guess it's not an
I got
album, his 2 songs that they put out?
I'm gonna find it on Spotify and just kind of listen to
So,
it. So I
it's Jordan Mailata, Jason Kelsey, and Lane Johnson, and they tear it up. I
oh,
have played that
fantastic.
song so much, I bump it everywhere. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Oh,
The big men that can sing, and they just have fun personalities, but, I don't talk about Lane Johnson as much as I should, but he is one of the most intelligent men I've ever experienced. I actually got to meet him, but just watching the way that he consistently improves his game, and not just his game, but those around him. I think that that's absolutely incredible. You have to be able to be a leader, and he just steps into that role. He teaches so well. But the things that these offensive linemen are doing, I watched them throw out I always joked, before the season, I was like, Jason Kelsey's throwing out pancakes on the second level. I watched Lane Johnson do it on the third level the other day. I was like, how did you even get downfield? Like, how does that even happen? It's incredible. They are so athletic. So athletic. But no, if the game is still won or lost in the trenches, no matter what anybody else wants to say. It starts there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, it's, and I love watching. I love watching those guys, and actually just from talking to people like you, and I've always felt like the game is won and lost in the trenches. Like if you don't get a good left tackle, if you don't get a good center, I mean, if you don't have good five good guys on the line, you're gonna be toast.
That's those. It's the five. I think that I do hope people realize a lot of people put emphasis on the left tackle, and the left tackle is incredibly important, right? We know that it protects our quarterback's blind side, but people don't realize the right tackle is just as important. And we watched that happen a lot last year. But when you go into zone coverage and there's slide protection, that means that your right tackle is on his own. He doesn't get help from the guard. He's on his own in space, which is a lot. So when you're watching everybody shift and he's trying to defend two guys, or a defender trying to come off the edge who cuts back, like we see Von Miller do a lot, that's tough. And I think that a lot of people don't appreciate right tackles enough, and they should, because that's where a lot of times you get beat. The Chargers last year, that's what happened.
Game 17. Game 17, Max Crosby he basically became an all-pro in that game, because I don't know how many times he hit Justin Herbert. He was in his grill all game long, and it was just like.
And we knew coming off of it, Storm's just not as agile. He doesn't move as quick. That's why we like our offensive linemen to have a wrestling background, right? They know how to manipulate their bodies. They know how to move, stretch, and they can get around. They're more flexible. Yeah.
Oh man, back to the matchups.
Yeah.
So
sorry, I went on a rant.
You never have to apologize, mi amiga. You never have to apologize. Oh, so tell me, is Philly the top line, and do you have two or three others that you're really excited about? And we have a question specific to that I'm going to ask you after that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, as far as offensive lines go, they take the cake. I mean, there's nobody doing what they're doing. Not to mention, they do things that are crazy, but they're so adaptable, right? You watch them, if you watch their film, they are talking every single play and they're changing things, which is absolutely incredible. As far as other ones that I like, I don't like to say these are my offensive line rankings, because what I've learned is I have offensive linemen that I think are great, but you have to work as a cohesive unit. That gets challenged by who's in front of you, right? I have full respect for defensive lines. So for me, my favorites kind of go back and forth each week, because they're going to perform differently depending on who they're matched up against. But right now, the Eagles have a great offensive line. Obviously, the Chiefs, the Packers have a good one. The Ravens have a phenomenal run blocking offensive line. They need to. It's a little bit of a balance between Lamar hanging in the pocket and their pass pro, but I think that they would be able to have a good pass pro if they developed a few things like that. But the Patriots also have a good offensive line.
Oh man. So I want a great question in the chat from Mr. Scampers. Is Cincinnati the most improved offensive line this season?
Yes. Yes. And what you're going to see is with offensive lines, the longer they are working together, the better they become, right? The more cohesive they perform as a unit. And that's what you saw go wrong with Green Bay, right? They have the talent, but when you start to play musical chairs with those offensive linemen, people think the tackles are interchangeable. They're not. Right. So what offensive linemen do, how they train, is they're just constantly, it's muscle memory. They're moving back in the same spot. They're throwing their arms, they're throwing their legs, they're throwing their foot, they're taking their jabs. If you try to do that opposite, I know that this analogy goes around all the time, but it's literally like wiping your ass with the opposite hand. Am I allowed to cuss? Sorry.
You're fine. Estás bien.
Okay, sorry, guys. Lo siento. But I know a little bit. But yeah, so that's what gets difficult. The Bills are having a hard time with that also because they did that all last year. You can't swap those guys around and expect it to work.
One guy who made the swap is Panay Sewell, going from the
Yes.
left to the right, and
But it was
he
preseason and he's stuck.
uh, you're right. And but though he didn't finish the thick six, but he had that great catch recently.
Yes.
I don't think anybody celebrates them as much as you. How are you saving it? Because we haven't seen the thick six yet this year,
Man, I
or
want
too
a
many.
thick six so bad. We saw so many towards the end of the year last year. It got me all hyped. Um, I think that right now things are so up and down and competitive that there hasn't really been a breakaway game where uh, coaches feel comfortable to do that, right? I really thought that Spencer Brown with the Bills was going to have one, and I haven't given up hope yet, but I think that that's coming. Um, but yeah, leave it to Dan Campbell to just get an offensive lineman in the end zone. I think that's going to happen this year at some point.
I hope so. Actually, you know what? I think Philly could do it because I think
Oh yeah.
they're going to clinch so early that they could just say, "All right, let's do that."
Well, they did last year. Lane Johnson got one. Yeah, I would love to see that. I would love to see Philly have multiple, but I do think that what you'll see is it comes later in the season. You always get a little bit more risky whenever you know that you're not fighting for a playoff spot.
Oh man. So we're now let's jump into the fantasy semifinals a little bit because I could
Mm,
literally talk O-line play with you for listen to you talk O-line for hours, but I know you need to sleep at some point. But managers need to do that balancing act.
mm,
Playing those who, between playing those who brought them to the dance, the good or
yes.
bad matchups, or playing the hot hand. How are you balancing that on your teams?
Like I said, I'm trying to take it week by week. At this point, I'm just going off of matchups. Who I feel like is going to have the most success that week is who I put into my starting lineup. If I feel like there's somebody better, I'll scroll waivers and just see who's available. Um, eh, yeah, that might be a little bit tough. I feel like if you see Kelsey lined up as an eligible receiver, you're going to know something's up.
Maybe he'll do it in well, he won't be able to do it in the Pro Bowl because in Pro Bowl
Yeah, they're cutting that
we had
out.
they're but offensive linemen are eligible in flag football, so maybe it'll be a little more
Yeah.
possible there.
I would love to see them play beer pong. Like, if you're not gonna give me a football game, I wanna see a competitive beer pong game.
That would be fantastic. Beer pong
Wouldn't that
and
be dope?
pickleball and beer pong would just be hilarious. So there
100%.
so I got about three either or, and I don't think there's a wrong answer either one, but I'd love your thoughts on this. So I got a
Okay.
running back, quarterback, and receiver combo. Jerick McKinnon versus Seattle or Miles Sanders at Dallas?
Mm, I'm gonna have to go Sanders.
Ooh, over the
I
hot
know.
hand, huh?
Over the hot hand. I just feel like there's gonna be a little bit more opportunity there, especially after
Mm.
we saw the Jags kind of expose the Cowboys defense a little bit, right? So if you can get them moving lateral, horizontal, if you get those linebackers to where they have to stretch, they can't handle it. I think that we're gonna see this team come in and kind of dominate on that weekend point because that's what the Eagles do. They
Uh,
capitalize on other people's weaknesses.
it's just it's surgical almost. It's
It
fantastic to
really
watch,
is.
especially the
Love to
last.
see it.
I think the last 3 weeks has been most pronounced to see that. Okay, so the next one, the GOAT, Tom Brady at Arizona or Gardner Minshew at Dallas. We're expecting him to be the starter. He hasn't been named the
Yeah.
starter, but if the two of them are if he's starting, uh, which way are you leaning?
If Minshew is starting and it's a guarantee, I'm gonna go Minshew. If not, Brady. Like, if there's a question, I feel like you have to go Brady just because you don't wanna pick a guy who's gonna sit on the bench, right? But if it comes out that he's gonna start, of course, I'm gonna go Minshew.
Yeah, it's I got this question today in a Discord chat, and I was just kind of like, wow,
Brady's the
that's
safer option right now just because we know. But at the same time, man, Brady's been struggling. And and he's struggling to connect. And so I just kind of feel like Minshew's your guy if he's going to play.
Plus, JJ Watt's been playing well lately, so and that's where the offensive line has not done a good job protecting Brady, so he could be in their face. So, oof, oh man. Last one. This is another one. So, two players in the same game. Chris Godwin, against not against Arizona, or DeAndre Hopkins
Oh,
against Tampa Bay in
Tampa Bay.
Arizona.
That's kind of a tough one.
That's a tough one.
Because initially I want to go Hopkins, but with what's happening with Arizona, it's kind of just like,
Third string quarterback.
yeah. I think you still have to go Hopkins here.
Oh man,
Are you going to go
it's so hard.
Godwin?
It's so hard it's you know what? I'm flipping a coin if I got to choose between those two, because and I'm gonna have a tough time. I've got them back to back ranked right now. I think I have Hopkins ahead of Godwin, and it's kind of like getting passes from Trace McSorley at home or from the GOAT on the road. So
The
it's just
thing that the thing with Hopkins is if he can get his hands on the ball, he will do something afterwards too. Um,
yes.
and so especially in that secondary, that's why I'm kind of putting him a little bit ahead.
Yeah, their secondary is banged up, so it's almost like McSorley just has to throw it up, and Hopkins is going to go get it.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
he's got those elastic man arms that he could just grab the ball.
And,
Oh my goodness.
McSorley is a second reaction type of guy. So he's going to be able to hang around a little bit longer to try to make something happen if everything falls apart, which it will. So I don't know. I kind of, if I had to choose, I would go Hopkins. Yeah.
Oh man, I think I think I agree. I think I'd say great minds think alike, but I'd be being presumptuous on putting my mind up against yours. So
No.
this is thank you. I was fishing for that compliment. So let's get into some game action. I mean, I've got 5 games that we could run through pretty quickly, because I think
Okay.
we know, but these are games that I think are expected to see some points. There are some games that we're expecting to see some weather play a role.
Hmm.
I especially heard from a media member that I reached out to in Cleveland. He just said the wind is going to howl and it's going to be cold. It's going to be tough to pass in that game on this weekend. So keep that in mind for your Saints
Hmm.
Browns lineup decisions. It's going to whip a lot in Chicago and possibly Baltimore too. So it's gonna be cold and windy. But all the more reason we need more domes. We need more domes.
See, I
But
love the weather element. I really do. And I know the fantasy football community is going to come at me hard because it's a very hot take, but the football fan in me loves it. It's unlike anything else we see. That's why growing up we would always say the basketball players are soft. You don't have to play in the elements. You're in an air-conditioned gym or a heated gym, whatever it is. This is the one time that we get to see players. The only time these players aren't going to play is if there's actual lightning.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. We got a quick question before we get into that. So since we're talking about since we mentioned about the Cleveland game, worried about Chubb. He's got 2 DMPs, battling a foot
Mm.
injury. Offense is struggling. Him or AJ Dillon this week. Got to keep in mind AJ Dillon cleared the concussion protocol, but make sure that he's playing. So keep an eye on his practice schedule.
Yeah. Mm.
It's hard to sit Chubb, isn't it?
I
If he's playing.
yeah, but I feel like Chubb has a better chance of getting in the end zone.
I agree.
AJ Dillon's gonna get you a little bit. Mm. I feel like the Browns are gonna have to rely on the run game. Um, but can we guarantee that he's gonna stay healthy through the game? No. So that makes it tough. I personally prefer Chubb over Dillon this
I
week.
I I agree with you on that one. If Chubb is if Chubb is going to play, I'm gonna take my chance. I did that with Ramondre Stevenson last week. People were asking me all over the place, start Ramondre. I said if he is healthy, you're playing Ramondre. And so thank you for making me look smart, Ramondre. Muchas gracias.
Don't you love when that happens?
Oh gosh, it's like there are sometimes like I do Discord questions on Sunday mornings before the games,
Mhm.
and so it's the last minute, fish or cut bait on some of those questions, and it's like I know I do them rapid fire, and it's just like, man, I really hope I help some people win. So, and a couple
But
times I've gone in.
it's better because
The
I
what?
personally I said sometimes it's better if you rapid fire because I overthink things. So I need to be better about that because if somebody's asking me for my advice, I'm giving them the full opinion that I would give myself. And it gets crazy up there. It's a lot of back and forth in my head.
Have you ever like stood up, when a friend is playing blackjack, and they'll ask you, should I take the card or not?
Yeah. That would make me wanna throw up. I've not been in that position, I don't wanna be in that position. I can't there's some times where I go to bed without dinner, like, hungry, just because I was so overwhelmed trying to decide what I wanted to eat for dinner that it got to the point where I was, like, emotionally exhausted, and I was like, "Screw it, I'll try again tomorrow." Like, I don't I don't like quick decisions, I like to be able to think things through. I'm not a go with the flow type of person when it comes to decisions, like, I need to know where I stand on things.
Well, the one thing I always, the kind of like my philosophy on giving fantasy football advice is, I'm your friend who's standing up at the blackjack table, but it's not my money on the table. So I'll be like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, hit that 12 against a two, whereas if I were sitting in the chair, I'd be like, I got $25 on this.
Yeah,
Well, what if I bust? What if I get a 10? And I start getting, instead, I'm like, oh yeah, you're gonna get a nine. You're gonna get a nine. And I
yeah.
end up doing a lot better for people when. So I always try and take that philosophy when I'm giving fantasy advice. It's just like, oh yeah, do that. Whereas I'll end up overthinking it, and like I played Matt Ryan over Tom Brady a few weeks ago, and it cost me a spot in my
Mm,
Familia league. So in the playoffs, so that was the difference.
yikes.
Those two
Don't
guys,
you
yeah.
hate that?
Oh,
Yeah, I when people first started asking me for fantasy football advice, I would do the whole, um, this is this is what I see for this team and this player, and then I would compare the 2 that they were asking, and then they would always message back, "Who?" Like, they didn't care about my reasoning, they just wanted to know who I thought they should go with because I tried to give them the information and just, like, lay it out, "You make the decision." That did not work. People just got angry.
Even though you're kind of like guiding them in that direction when you're giving them the
Yeah.
information, you're kind of like, okay, here you go. I'm letting you make your decision yourself. So,
Yeah,
all right. So
doesn't
let's
work.
so let's jump into Thursday night football real quick. We got
Okay.
this is a very interesting game. Jacksonville 6-8 at New York Jets 7-7.
Mhm.
A little rain is expected in the forecast. Temperature in the high 40s. Wind could be an issue. Sometimes we've heard that about the Meadowlands.
Yep.
So my quandary with Trevor Lawrence is, and I want you to help me out because I also have Gardner Minshew.
Mm.
Uh, my Scott Fishbowl team is number 52 overall, so I have a legit chance to get in the finals.
It's
Um,
exciting.
the rain, windy conditions. I have Gardner Minshew potentially playing in perfect conditions in Dallas.
Mhm.
I got Lawrence coming off a run. He's in a heater where since week 9 he's thrown 14 touchdowns, 1 interception, 300-yard games in
Mhm.
that span. But the Jets are also great on defense.
Yep.
Talk again about the matchup. Uh, what? I'm coming to you. What do you think? What do you think?
Man,
I'm going to sweat this one for the next 24 hours.
that just added so much pressure just because, you have to obviously, it'd be easier if they were playing on the same day and you could make that decision in game day.
Yeah.
Um, if Minshew plays, he's who I would start just because he's got one more favorable conditions, but also a more favorable environment as far as who's around him, right? He is set up for success. The one thing that worries me about Trevor Lawrence this week outside of weather is the fact that they lost their left tackle. And
Oh.
that's going to be a struggle. So you're going to have a lot of protection from that guard. And even if he does get the ball off, you like your corners down the field every on all three levels, the Jets are just kind of stacked right there. You have Sauce that's locked into that corner. It's just like mm. Um, I think that the Jets are 6th in defensive DVOA, which is insane, and that's what's gonna hold them into the game. So, that's what worries me about the Jags and Trevor Lawrence this weekend.
Yeah.
If
You
Minshew
just,
plays, I would go with him. But
yeah.
I mean, the one thing about Trevor Lawrence that I'm excited about, he's improved so much this year with, is he gets the ball off quick and he's accurate. I just don't know how that's going to play out whenever the offensive line is going to have to start shifting to make up for that left tackle loss.
Mm. Yeah, I think I just hope that this decision is made by game time tomorrow, so that
Yeah,
I can make that decision. Because I'd hate to
me too.
start Minshew, and then all of a sudden Hurts decides, "Hey, I'm
Popping up.
fine."
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and that is frustrating. I know from a game plan standpoint, you don't want to give the other team what quarterback to game plan for, but it's super frustrating in the fantasy football world. But I should say I don't think Trevor Lawrence is a terrible start. I just think given those two situations, Minshew's who I prefer.
Yeah, he is still the QB6 on the season, so it's
Yeah,
there's worse
still a
things
good
to
shot.
do. Worse things
Yeah.
to do, but you're right. Like you said, the matchup. Watch the matchup. So our
Mhm.
next guy on the other side, Zonovan Knight, Bam Knight. It was a rough one last week. 23 yards on 13 carries, but he's getting the touches in the high teens. Jacksonville giving up some yardage as since week 10, 20. They're 144.6 scrimmage yards allowed to the running back.
Mhm.
They've given up some yardage to Pollard and Elliott last week, Derrick Henry the week before. I'm kind of could you see yourself riding him into the fantasy semifinals at the very least as a flex play?
Um, I would say no because I think didn't he hit the injury report this week?
I think
I
he
think
yeah,
I
he
read
did.
that earlier today. That makes me nervous. I just feel like if you have to, then I don't mind it. But to be honest with you, I think some of that digression that we're seeing is due to injury. And I think if it's at the point now where they're coming out and saying, hey, he's dealing with an injury, I think that that's when you have to kind of take a step back and say, do I have anybody else who could plug in there as a flex that could be a little bit better? When
Yeah,
it when it comes to this point in the season, every point matters, right? And so you don't you don't want to blow it on a guy who maybe isn't at his best. Is everybody is hurt. If you are an NFL player playing right now, you are dealing with some type of soreness, injury, stiffness, something is wrong with you. But if it's bad enough that you're telling the team or the team's making that a thing and telling the public, then you kind of have to consider that into your fantasy football decisions as well.
and you're right. I did look it up while you were talking. He was put on the injury report with an ankle injury. He was
Mm,
listed as a full participant, but uh, this is for Wednesday, the Wednesday practice report. So
who
yeah,
knows? Things
something to
can
keep an eye,
change, but
something
yeah.
to keep an eye on. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, you can't, and that's the one thing. It's kind of like you don't. Do you want to ride your season on somebody who, there's any kind of questions about them? It's not fun. So
I
I
agree.
got Saturday. Most of the games are Saturday. So Sunday being
Which I
Christmas, there's
love.
it's
Football
so
on a
good
Saturday, give it to me.
all
I
day long.
love watching the NFL multiple days in a row. I'm obsessed with it. Christmas
Oh,
Eve or not, get out of here.
I think at some point we're going to start seeing some Friday Night Lights action too. So
Mm,
it's going to be interesting. So Seahawks at Chiefs.
mhm,
That game's got a 48.5 point over under. Very interesting. It's going to be cold. It's going to be about 5 degrees, a little bit of wind, but nothing too crazy.
mhm,
I'm kind of like I am kind of excited about Geno Smith as a possibility this week. He's the QB7 on the
mhm.
season, 26 touchdowns, just 8 interceptions. He's thrown 11 touchdowns since week 10. That KC defense has given up some points. Number
Giving up a
30
lot of
against the
points.
quarterback. Yeah.
Mhm.
Starting him with confidence. Are you then throwing him?
Yeah, I do like him. I think that if he's your guy, and I think that you're going to get a lot. That's how the Seahawks have to win. That if they want to win, that's how they're going to win. Is they're going to have to get out there and throw up some points because you have Patrick Mahomes who's going to do Patrick Mahomes things, but I just kind of feel like that's the only shot they have. So I think that they're going to come out just guns a blazing and they're going to move the ball. So absolutely, I like that pick.
I think that's one. So on the other side, this is kind of more of a DFS play because you're starting Travis Kelce no matter what. Travis Kelce at $8,000 this week
Mhm.
is pricey, but man, I
That's a
just
lot, though.
oh, oh, I know it's a lot, but it's the Seattle Seahawks, number 31 overall on the season against the tight
Mhm.
ends.
Yeah,
So
and their total defensive DVOA, they're at the bottom of the pack too. They're uh, like 25th or 26th, something like that. Um, yeah, it just for me, that's a pretty penny to spend on him, especially because I feel like he hasn't been performing as well. Um, I shouldn't say that. He's performing well. DFS wise, obviously, I'm gonna tight end's a position that I kind of fill in last when it comes to DFS. I
hmm.
almost said DVS. Talking about DVDs over here. DFS. Yeah, I mean, maybe I feel like you can get more points through other positions, but Travis Kelsey always a good start.
I love I the thing is I usually love to punt the tight end position just
Hmm.
because trying to get somebody in the $3,000 range because there's always somebody that you're like, oh, he could get a touchdown this week or something. His matchup is good, but you know what? I look at what Kittle did to Seattle last week, and it's just
Yeah, I mean, I
it's
can guarantee that Kelsey's going to make it to the end zone
oh
a couple times. He's going to be
um
there.
ooh, that would be so fun. That would be so
Mhm.
fun. Oh, it's spending. I'm tempted to do a Mahomes. I think to do a stack with Mahomes and Kelsey in this game, a game which I think could shoot out.
Mhm.
I think it's gonna. I'm gonna have a lineup and probably a dollar lineup or something like that. Maybe it'll get some. Maybe it'll win some extra Christmas presents for my daughters on that one.
Hey,
So.
I'm all about it. At least you might as well try in one league, and then I always like to do multiple different lineups and throw them all in there. Why not?
That's one of the stacks that I want to look at this week. A Mahomes Kelsey stack. I always like to do the
Mhm.
cheap stacks. I think Geno Smith is going to be a great stack this week. Geno
I do
Smith and
too.
DK Metcalf.
Mhm. I do too.
Very fun. Very fun. All right. So another game that could be fun. The Giants at the Vikings. It's the pristine conditions, the dome,
Mm,
48.5 point over under. I think Daniel Jones is an interesting possibility to play for, if you don't want to get Gardner Minshew or you didn't get Gardner Minshew. I think with the rushing ability and the fact that the Vikings are giving up over 300, they're giving up exactly 316.7 yards per game, last in the league since week 10.
mhm.
I, I think there's some possibility. I think there's shootout possibility because the Giants are also not very good on defense. So I think Kirk Cousins is going to have himself a day,
Yeah, the Giants are one of
including.
the worst in the league with defense.
Ooh,
They're hurt.
could you put your playoff team in the hands of Daniel Jones if you lost Hurts?
Mm. I still think that there's better options out there, but if that's what your option is, I feel like this is an okay game to go ahead and throw them out there, see what happens. I think we're going to see a lot of Saquon this week.
I think you're right. I think you're very right. I
The
mean, there
thing
might
that
be some
kind of
check.
deters me.
Yeah, I think there could be
Maybe
some
a
check
little
downs.
bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, Saquon looked like himself again last week, which was fantastic.
It's what you love to see. What you love to see.
So beautiful. Dr. Erwin Porras is somewhere listening, and he's very happy to hear what we just said. So the Saquon truther himself. Yeah. Speaking
He
of
is
running
a good
backs,
one.
Dalvin Cook. People were worried about him last week, and
Mhm.
I recommended him thinking because of the matchup, and I think we're kind of going back to the matchup again. You talked about the defense. He had
Mhm.
190 scrimmage yards last week. The Giants are giving up 165.1 scrimmage yards to the running back. It's yeah, I think. Ooh, what's your confidence level in playing Cook this week after what really has been a rough season for him?
Yeah, I don't mind Cook. He's kind of middle of the pack for me, especially even this week with the matchup. The Vikings are such a weird team, especially the way they come out and play, but they should have their way on the Giants, anything that they want to do. To be honest with you, I think what we're gonna see is the Giants come out and do that kind of that man thing that they like to do with the half. I don't even know if you can call that a disguise. I their disguises on nickel and dime is like, is that really a disguise because everybody can see what's going on? But I just think that they're gonna get burned by Jefferson a lot. Maybe at that
Mm.
point, then we'll start seeing them kind of move the ball with Cook, but Kirk is not great at reading things like that. He's good with design throws or if there's a design run, design little quick pass. So I think that that's why we see Cook kind of fall off a little bit, but he's middle of the pack for me. I don't hate it, don't love it.
Yeah, I think you're right that Jefferson is going to have himself a big game.
Mhm.
Somebody asked me about playing KJ Osborne when Jefferson's on the other team. It's like Jefferson's going to do whatever he wants this week.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
It,
he's going to have some fun.
which is what you love to see. I love to see. I have him rostered, so I'm all about it. Go off, Justin Jefferson.
Well, speaking of player who's gone off, the Packers at Miami. So two more
Mm,
games, and then we'll get a couple of quick fun things.
okay.
You got the Packers at Miami, so it's 52
Mhm.
degrees. It's gonna be nice weather, 49.5 point over under. So there's gonna be some points scored. Christian Watson came a little bit back to earth a little bit last week. He didn't score a touchdown after he got 8 touchdowns weeks 10 to 13. He's still running the routes. Miami's giving up some yards to the wide receivers. I mean, Watson's been kind of like found money, but how do you feel about putting him into a semifinal lineup?
Um, Christian Watson.
Yeah.
I think that he's gonna have at least one touchdown this week. I kind of feel like if you have him rostered, he's probably one of your best options, and I feel like you have to start him. The if the Dolphins can get home, they're gonna disrupt a lot. I just don't know if they're gonna be able to do it. We'll see.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins have been better against the run. I really think the Packers are going to have to attack through the air, and it's going to be a lot of Watson in this game.
I also feel
Keenan
like they're
Allen.
gonna try to shut down Watson. I think that that's gonna be their guy that
Mm,
they almost man up on. So I don't think that he's not gonna have like a record-breaking game, but I do think he's gonna find the end zone.
that'd be interesting. It could be a little Romeo Dobbs who returned to the lineup last week, or
Yeah.
Alan Lazard.
I do like Dobbs. Yeah, I do like
Oh, I
Dobbs this
like
week. So they're gonna
Dobbs.
have to shut
Dobbs.
down one. They're not gonna be able to shut down both.
Yeah, I don't think they if they're gonna put extra coverage on somebody, I think you're right. I think it is gonna be on Watson, but maybe he just like he burned guys. He's been burning guys with that speed, and he's gonna be. I mean, they're all gonna be so happy to be playing like almost 50 degrees warmer than what they
For
play.
sure. Have we heard anything about Josh Myers? Do you know if
Not yet.
is he on the injury report? Because that's gonna be a big tell. Aaron Rodgers does not do well when he needs rhythm. Trying to look this up.
I'm looking him up too.
So, for people who don't know offensive line, that's the Packers center. And the center is like the heartbeat of the offense, right? That's what keeps everything on rhythm and steady. And Aaron Rodgers, what we've learned is if that rhythm gets off, he does not do well and he blames it on everybody else. They ran the wrong route. No, they were fine. It was you. Anyways, if he's not playing, that can be a little bit tricky, especially in the first couple quarters. But we'll see. Still like Watson.
I think you're right. You're right. Yeah, keep him keep A Rod in very much in rhythm. Raheem Mostert found a great rhythm last week. 156 yards on
Yes.
18 touchdowns. It's
Mhm.
high, but Jeff Wilson may be back and healthy. But is he completely healthy? Ugh. What's your
That's
confidence
where you
level
go
in
back.
Mostert?
That's where you go back and forth. Low, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm close off wet on him because I
There,
just think.
yeah, I think that this is going to be a lot of air attack. I honestly think you're going to see a lot of Tua and Waddle. What are the Packers don't have the men to go out. We already talked about their defense having holes. They can't go man. And if you try to do that whole soft zone, which is their MO, that's the only thing that they do is that soft zone defense, you're going to get torn up. Tyreek's going to eat all day long. All day long.
They're so fun to watch when those two are going nuts.
I love it.
They're just
That's a good
oh,
DFS stack this week. I actually haven't looked at the pricing of it, but that's gonna be a good one,
I
especially with
think
the weather.
yeah, because
Mm,
Tua is usually cheap.
mhm.
That's the thing with Tua. He's
Tua is
usually
cheap.
cheap.
Yeah, Tyreek is not ever.
No, he's usually one of the top guys
8 or
out there.
9, yeah.
So yeah, let me see. I'm looking him up right now. To looking what Waddle and Tua are this week. My computer's a little slow. Let's see. We got the people who are listening on audio right now. We promise to be very interesting. But you got Tua.
It's good
Oh
information.
wait. Oh wait a second. Yeah, Tua. Yeah, they're on Sunday. That's right. I was looking at the Saturday slate.
Saturday. Yeah, there's
So
Sunday.
yeah, I think.
Um,
But yeah, that one's that. I'll look that one up. If I mean, I'll put that one. I'll put that one in the Adentro Afuera article that's going to come out here. So real quick,
okay.
I want to jump through we've talked about Philly at Dallas.
Mhm.
What's your confidence level in AJ Brown even if Minshew is starting?
I still
Dallas has
like
gotten
it.
beaten. Yeah, Dallas has gotten beaten.
Yeah.
I love that.
Dallas is kind of beating themselves, but like I said, the Jags kind of exposed them where they stretched those linebackers horizontally, and it really did make a difference. The thing is Dallas just doesn't have the manpower to shut Philly down. Nobody does. And the thing with Philly is they're so adaptable on the fly. If what their game plan wasn't working in halfway through the first quarter, they'll completely change it. They're not waiting until halftime to regroup and everything. Their unit is so intelligent that they can adjust on the fly and make it happen, even with a backup quarterback in. I mean, there's a reason why if you go to Philly, there's half of the stands have the backup quarterback jersey on. People have Minshew jerseys on, and you have one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But it's just it is what it is. They're stacked no matter what happens, unless there's some catastrophic injury. So yes, I still like Brown this week.
Yeah, and Dallas defense allowed 11 TDs since week 10, so they're getting
Mhm.
burned. They're getting burned. On the other side, Tony Pollard has been so fantastic. 100 plus
Mm.
scrimmage yards in 4 of his last 6 games. He's got 21 in 6 games. He's got 21
Mhm.
receptions over that span. He's still getting it done, even though Zeke is still averaging about 15 plus carries per game. Philly, just number 19 against running backs, giving up almost 120 scrimmage yards to the position. It's kind of like how much what confidence level in starting Pollard?
Um, Pollard's going to perform. The thing with Pollard is if they have the choice, they'll use Pollard to get down the field and put Zeke in the end zone. And that's so frustrating from a fantasy football standpoint. But the Eagles defense, I know that's what you're saying going off stats, and that's probably for the whole season. The Eagles defense has improved, especially up front, and they're becoming one of the front runners. I mean, the last couple of weeks, they've pretty much dominated on the defensive line, and they've kind of outperformed the offensive line. They did last week at least. I think that the Cowboys offensive line is going to struggle just a little bit. We know that they have their veterans that are coming in, and I don't even know, they're interchanging right tackles. I don't know if you noticed that last week, but that's what they
Oh
did. I don't know if they
yeah.
were trying to figure out who are we going to play when it comes to playing the Eagles, or both of these are kind of older guys and they may need a break to be able to perform at that level. The other thing is Dak. First of all, the play calling with the Cowboys is kind of up and down, and they don't play to their strengths. So that makes me nervous. The other thing is Dak, I've noticed, has been leaving the pocket too early. And that's where your offensive line starts to struggle, right? Because you're asking them to work on the fly and move, and that's really difficult to do. So, with all of that being said, and then you have a rookie left tackle, it makes me nervous, to say the least. But I still think that Pollard is in a good position if you want to start him.
Oh, I love it. I
You
love
see
it.
what I
Okay,
mean
so
by I throw all this stuff out there and I overthink it, but that's where my mind goes.
but that's the thing, because now you, like you said, you were throwing it out there. People still need to make their own decisions. They still need
Yeah.
to click that button themselves. We're not clicking it. We're not holding their hand. We're just saying,
Yeah.
hey, here's the information. You can hold your own hand and as you click that button or you hit your phone. So
But don't sleep on Philly's defensive front because I know that it was an issue at the beginning of the year, but they have addressed it and they're coming in hot, hot. And I think that's going to shake Dak a little,
they've
especially
got some
coming off
big,
the edge.
yeah, bringing it and also bringing in some guys in the middle to shore up their run defense with Ndamukong Suh and Linval
They
Joseph. I
just
mean, it's
drop Sue, which is unbelievable. They
oh,
have so
that's
much up
right.
front that they'll just drop him. And what do? Your middle's taken. So yeah.
Unreal, unreal. So I kind of teased this a little bit at the beginning when I was talking about swift and powerful. We talked about being both. I told you how my daughters made me Taylor
I
Swift
love that.
fan, and they listen to '80s music with me and the Beatles and different
Mm.
like that. I'll kind of enjoy some of their stuff. When did you become a Swiftie, and do you have a favorite album?
Yes, and I have one answer for both of those questions. The Fearless album is where I became a fan.
Ooh.
That's so it was that's where she became popular in my hometown, and that entire album was about coming into yourself into high school and what those challenges are, and that album came out right as I was going into high school, so for me, it was like she was singing about my reality, and now that's why I feel like I love her so much is it's the same as I've grown with her, and everything that she goes through, she puts my emotions into words, which is unbelievable. But yeah, so Fearless was how I became a Taylor Swift fan, and that's definitely my favorite album. I have to stand by that.
Oh, it's glorious. Favorite, maybe like 3, 4 favorite songs
Okay, so that
yeah.
changes all the time. I was just on a podcast where we drafted the all-time greatest Taylor Swift songs, and they're probably gonna be like, "You're saying something different," but it changes. So right now, Lavender Haze is my favorite song.
Ooh.
I play that probably at least once a day. I also like Bejeweled. Both of those are off of Midnight's, her new album. "'Tis the Damn Season" I've been listening to a lot just because it's kind of festive and it
Oh,
talks about going back to your hometown. Endgame is always at the top of my list. Trying to think. And then, of course, anything off Fearless. So, like 15, Love Story, all those great songs.
oh my goodness, it's so funny. Love Story is a song that when my girls really became started to become fans, if we'd be driving or something like that, it'd be like they want to listen to Taylor Swift. I'm like, okay, play Romeo, play the Romeo song,
The Romeo song.
the Romeo Save Me song, and then they were like, Dad, it's a love story, and it's like, oh, okay, and it just yeah, that
My
one's a favorite.
favorite is they'll play that at sporting events and the whole crowd will sing. And it's hilarious. It's so funny to watch a grown man sing Love Story.
Oh, it's funny. It's fun. Yeah, being the father of daughters, it's kind of like it adds a little extra level to it for me.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
what's funny is that we got to see her during the Reputation tour. So you talking
Oh,
about Endgame and
great
everything like
tour.
that. Incredible, incredible show. I actually drove my daughters nuts with Gorgeous because I would sing it in like an outlandish, over the top in my voice, not her voice.
Are you
So,
gonna give us a mini performance?
I'd just be like, I no, I would. It would just be the beginning. I'd just say like "gorgeous" and just do 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 do.
And they're like, "Dad."
Yeah, they'd just be like, "Oh gosh, Dad," and they're like, but they love the song too, and it was incredible live, and yeah, that one's forever a favorite. Now, any chance you're gonna see her on this tour?
I didn't get tickets, but I'm not giving up.
Oh,
I'm still gonna try. I know. I'm
well, I'm still gonna.
I'm gonna hustle, but I'm gonna do the best I can. I would fly wherever to see her. Wherever. I'll
Well,
be
I'll
up in the
send.
nosebleeds, whatever.
Oh well, if you make it to the final show of the tour, which is at SoFi Stadium, the
Mhm.
Martine Five will be there, so you got a pre-party with us.
Oh, for sure.
Um,
It's a done deal.
but so I just want if you were to listen to the song "All Too Well," which is my all-time favorite,
Ah,
and probably
great
so
song.
many,
Great
just
song.
incredible song. There's two versions of it. You know,
Mhm.
the 10-minute version, which became just legendary, you know,
Taylor's
which was a
version.
legend. Yeah. If you had to choose which one you wanted to hear, which would
The
you
t
choose?
the Taylor 10-minute All Too Well. It's got so much emotion, so much when you know the background to it, it's almost like you're cheating yourself if you listen to the quick version.
It really is. It kind of it does tell a story.
It does.
That one more than the first one does, which
Mhm.
also the performance that she did at the Grammys of that song where she's at the piano is
Yes.
iconic. But
So, do
I
you
mean,
know the backstory to that song? Do you know how it
believe
was
me.
written?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
she was going through all that, and the 10-minute version was her just getting up, and they were just like, "Just get" her mom said, "Get out all of your emotion. Just stand up there until you feel better," and it went on for 10 minutes, and she just sang it. Like, everything that she was feeling, that's how it came to be. So when you know that, it's like, why would you wanna listen to the condensed almost like societal version. It's what she put out to make a label happy or to make you know what I mean? To be able to make it fit that poppy, top of the charts type song. So, yeah, I wanna get in there. I wanna feel that emotion. I want all of it.
Yeah, though I'll have to kind of close my ears to hear my daughters singing the "F the patriarchy" line. So they seem
But
to they
really,
seem to they seem to bleep themselves out whenever we're in the car, and they just
smart
don't.
girls.
It's yeah, it is. But you're right. It's so incredible to me that song. I'm a big Prince fan,
Mm.
and to me that is her Purple Rain,
Oh, yeah.
and which is the like I saw Prince do Purple Rain. I've seen Prince in concert, R.I.P. Uh, plenty of times where it's like he came out and he'd play Purple Rain at the end and just be like, man, if he came out and just did that, and some
Everybody would be happy.
I'd be like, yeah, did that,
Yeah.
walked off. Yeah, I got my $100 worth, but yeah, thankfully he played everything else. But yeah,
You're so
she's
right, though. I agree with that.
and by the way, it's funny. I also think it's for me. I think I shared with you that she was my most listened to person on Spotify in
As she should
2022.
be. Love that.
So my in my top five, there were two ladies, her and Madonna. Uh,
Oh,
oh yeah, Madonna exploded when I was in high school, so that'll tell you how
yeah.
old I am. But you know, we were talking, and my girls are also being '80s music fans because of me.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I I said, you know, Taylor Swift is Taylor Swift probably because Madonna was Madonna 35
Mm,
years ago, and
that's true.
she put the road down for her. So that's why that's why I loved it
Absolutely.
that they were both on there. And I'll listen to the first two Madonna albums all day long. So
That's a great Spotify Wrapped. I always say this, I have to remember to get Spotify in January so that I can participate because
oh yes,
Apple's,
you have.
like, Wrapped is not as good.
No, it's not. The Spotify one is a lot more fun. Oh my goodness! Any other song that you wanna highlight because before I get to the last fun question?
No, really anything Taylor Swift we love
All day long, all day long.
all
Taylor,
day
I
long.
can't. August 9th can't come soon enough. We're gonna we got to get through
I
the
love
rest of the
that for
winter.
you. I gotta get there. I have to get there.
Last night of the tour too. So and you know the last night of the Reputation tour was in Dallas,
Mhm.
and it became the Netflix
It
special. So
did, and
hopefully
SoFi
we
would be a phenomenal stadium to do that in.
it's gonna be incredible. It'll be nice and warm, which is giving us warm thoughts right now that we're dealing, even us here in California, we're dealing with a cold spell. So I want to finish with something caliente.
Ooh, spicy.
So I always like to finish off with some taco and Mexican food talk.
Love it.
I know you're Texas adjacent. So how's the Mexican food scene in Oklahoma?
Oh, okay. So there is a couple of small towns that have really good authentic Mexican restaurants that I'll go to, but they are like small towns. So you're going to Hicktown, Oklahoma to be able to get this food.
Ooh.
Did you know that I lived in Mexico City for a while?
No. Oh
Yeah,
my
so
goodness.
I lived in
Dígame.
Polanco. Yeah, I lived in Polanco, Mexico City, but I traveled all the way around. So I was in mostly bigger places. Like I went to Acapulco, I went all over, but I did get to venture into like Chihuahua. I got to see kind of all of it, and I got to the nitty gritty. The best taco al pastor I've ever had in my entire life was in Mexico. The best authentic Mexican food. It's phenomenal, and it's so much so that it's a ton of cheese, and I just feel like fried everything is what I had there, but it didn't make my tummy hurt as much, maybe because everything's more fresh or maybe not as processed, but no, I think that I'm kind of tainted just because I got to experience authentic food for so long that especially the Tex-Mex places around here, they just don't really do it for me.
Yeah, Tex-Mex is a little too. It's not as spicy as I like it.
Yeah,
So
no. To be
yeah,
honest
give
with
me.
you, Oklahoma food's kind of eh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, so then favorite Mexico City. So was it Al Pastor favorites?
Oh, yeah, that was kind of my go-to, and honestly, I kinda ate that as like a warm up.
Ooh,
So
nice,
good.
nice.
Yeah.
So, our compadre of the show, Mauricio Gutierrez, is that's his 101 when it comes to tacos. So, I'm a big
It's
birria
so
guy.
good. Okay.
Uh,
But if it's not done right,
yeah.
it I also like mine to be super spicy, so the only time I'll order that is if I know it can be super spicy or if I can throw my own on there. Order some extra peppers or something and toss in there. No,
Well,
taco
next
al
time
pastor just hits.
oh, it's so good. So, well, next time you're in LA, I gotta take you over to Casa Mama Martin's house because she makes the best birria, and that's all I won't order it anywhere else. So I just have it with
I
her.
am there. I am there.
Uh, oh
I
man,
will invite myself.
yeah, you're always welcome. Mom loves cooking for everybody. So I just
Love that.
we've cooked, and this has been fantastic, mi amiga.
So
This is
much
long
fun.
overdue, but this has been un gran placer. This has been a Christmas gift already. You're a gift. You're a treasure. I just
Thank you for
want you to.
having me on. Are you kidding? Thank
Oh,
you. I truly
thank.
appreciate it.
Oh, mi amiga. Plug anything, please. Feel free. Plug anything. Plug away.
You guys check out Off the Bench. I do a podcast with Benchwarmer Brand. You guys probably know him from TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. He's on Twitter. Heavy Sports is our platform. They've been gracious enough to let us just do whatever we want, and we have a lot of fun. Brandon is hilarious. So we do a live show every Thursday before kickoff for Thursday Night Football, and then our podcast comes out every Tuesday off the bench, and it's awesome. And then
Oh,
I personally have a podcast coming out that's going to be fun. It has nothing to do with football. So if you're expecting football content, stay away. This is more of just a lifestyle, kind of dating relationships, talking about how hard it is to date in today's society. But it's really fun. It's with a former sneaky link of mine, which makes it even more fun. And there's a mystery aspect to it because I don't want people to know who he is. So I don't say his name. I call him Ghost, but that's actually launching next week, which I'm really excited about.
oh my goodness. Oh my. Is it going to be video and audio or either
So
one?
yeah, so I call my co-host, I call him Ghost on the show. That's not his real name, but that's kind of like our how I can identify that I'm talking to him. But he's going through job interviews right now. He's a finance bro. Ugh. But in order to kind of protect him, I decided that I'm going to put the video behind a Patreon. So if people want to pay the small fee for the Patreon, they can do that, but the audio will be free for everybody. So video, you have to be willing to give something up if you want to know what he looks like, but outside of that, it's going to be a good show.
Well, I mean, they'll get to see you, so that's worth the price of admission itself.
Oh, and there's some fun stories and there's some really fun stories in there.
I've heard you share some on It's a Vibe, so I know that,
It's
that's where I said you're one of the
definitely rated
funniest people.
R. It's explicit.
Oh my goodness, mi amiga. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah,
Thank you for
definitely. I mean,
having me.
what's the name of it again?
It's called On the Low. So if you
On the
guys can
Low.
follow me at Madi Kroll on Twitter, I'll keep you guys updated. Sometimes I'm funny. I throw just random stuff out there, but we like to have a good time.
All the time.
And
I get a smile
I
from
don't
you
know.
almost every day.
I was going to say, I don't know if you noticed that an NFL lineman commented on the you had commented on my post of Duke Manyweather's um, offensive line mastermind stuff, and then you commented on it. I replied to you, and pretty well-known offensive lineman commented on you.
And that was
And
kind of
it's like, I thought it
that
was
was
fun.
that was very cool. I was very flattered on that one. So but you know
Awesome
that's so
stuff.
cool.
We love to see it.
Oh, mi amiga, thank you so much. Merry Christmas
Thank
to you,
you.
familia. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. I'm not going to wish Happy New Year yet because I got another one coming out next week. So we got to get you
Cool.
ready for the fantasy finals. So buena suerte in your fantasy semifinals. Again, make sure you're going to fantasypoints.com. Get that early bird special. You can find me at Jorge Martin 17 right here on Twitter, and also Familia FFB everywhere on Facebook and Instagram. Also got a Twitter account there. And also when you're going to get the audio, go to Anchor. Get us on Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts. Also, make sure to give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. I know you guys have been watching because there's some of you people who are still on there. Muchas gracias again, Maddie. Otra vez, muchas gracias. And remember, everybody, todos somos familia. Salud.